Hello everyone, Jason Meyer here. Welcome to Studio Time. For the month of December, we're trying out the live streaming thing and practicing. And since I need the practice, I'm hoping you get the benefit. So 5 days a week, 3 times a day, 8 a.m., 1:30, and 8 p.m. all Pacific Standard Time. In the morning, we get some student feedback. In the afternoon, you come in the studio, and then I work on my projects and include you for about an hour or so. And then in the evening, we look at some masterworks, those that have achieved what we're trying to achieve, and to get inspiration and appreciation and some ideas for how to handle our solution. Hello, Susan. I'm glad you are here because we're going to be continuing our talk from this morning. But this time we're going to be working on one of my paintings, a project that I've had in the works for years and years and years and years. So let's see if we can get into that. I think first thing what we'll do is I want to share my screen and go through some photographs and talk about the ideas I'm putting together to create this work. And then I'll show you the paintings that have already been done, and then the canvases that are prepared to continue to study, and then the canvas that's going to be, quote unquote, the finished piece. So just to give you guys a little flavor of all of that. And again, if we'll stop having to, quote unquote, produce things and just learn to work on these things, it's a different experience in my mind, much richer, much more satisfying. So anywho, you guys will have to let me know if this is just too far off the charts or if this is beneficial for you. I don't think it's a bad thing to talk over people's heads a little bit. Have them reach to come up to you, but if you're too far away, that's no good either. All right, so let's do a little screen share. And so this photo was taken at Izzy over at Laguna Lake Park. This park is basically at the end of our street, not very far away at all. And so easy access for me, and I've seen it, witnessed it in all sorts of conditions through all sorts of seasons. Let's see, I think we've been in our house 19 years, almost 20 years now. So it gives you an idea. So the general idea is her standing on the edge and looking across. And I was thinking there would be a bit of a sunset over here, you know, with the idea of kind of her looking into the future, but there's all this distance between there. Boom. So much life left to live. Hello, Janny. Hi again. So we're just getting introduced and starting to look at the photo reference. And again, we're going to go through quite a bit today, but I'm going to talk about how I'm developing my idea and then hopefully develop it some more. Okay, so with this being the reference, let's talk a little bit about what I've already done. So obviously I took the reference, and if you've seen Izzy lately, you can tell that was quite a few years ago. And so this was the first little study that was done. I think this is a 6x8. It was done quick. You can probably see it's already been sanded, right? Ready to go back into the thing. But I never forgot this idea. This valley that we live in, it's called Los Osos Valley. And I've literally been watching it for decades. And so in a way, these paintings that I'm doing inside this valley are 2 decades in the making. I hope that makes sense. Just being aware of it. But you can see this is kind of sloppy, thrown down. Again, it's been sanded already. But the idea of her on the edge there looking out. And when I finished this, I realized immediately, well, this has got to be a longer, right? This is not the format for that. So I did this painting up here. And I'm not real happy with the values, the placement, or the color scheme. The general idea is there, but again, it's just very general, very general. So we have this canvas here to help us work out some of our color ideas. And this canvas and this canvas is a 1x2. Specifically, this is an 8-inch by 16-inch, and this is a 12-inch by 24-inch. This one is an 18-inch by 48-inch. So it's a 1x3. Okay, so that means the placement and stuff's going to be a little bit different on this, and we have to remember that. So as I'm working on here, now ideally I would have the perfect proportions, but we've got what we've got. We've got the supplies. You know, I can't take 7 years to prepare the stuff. It just is what it is. So whatever you got, you work with, but you understand how you're working with it. All right, so let us take a look at the elements of this painting. Now again, we're going to have her on the edge, and there's going to be water here in the foreground, or at least I think there's going to be water. I don't know if that's essential to my vision or not. We'll have to see about that. But what was essential was all this valley behind her and the sun setting, and this is a tree right there on the dock of the water. I've been painting that tree for about 20 years too, so I've got kind of a special relationship with it. And then I was thinking over here would be a little bit of some color. Okay. The idea is we could have reeds in the water kind of grounding us over here. But if we didn't have water, how else could we ground ourselves over here? Well, we could do it with a tree. But this reeds idea I kind of like, so we're probably going to stick with it. All right, so we have Izzy on the side. So there's a lot, her pose, her face, so the value arrangement here. And then I'm not thrilled with these colors. Again, the color scheme's got to be all overall, so we're going to look a little bit at that today. The base of San Luis Mountain, right? And then if we go across, this will be Bishops. And there's a little thing right beyond Bishops, and I think Hollister's more down here. And again, as we spread that out, we can have more vision if we want this, again, to represent these particular mountains. To me, the specifics of those mountains are secondary to the overall painting, right? I'm not going to sacrifice my painting so that I get that quote-unquote mountain exactly like it would be from that perspective. Okay, that quote-unquote exactly how it will be from that perspective, or what it quote-unquote looks like, honestly, to me, takes a back seat to aesthetics, to beauty, right? It's almost the idea of fact versus truth. And it's not necessarily versus, but truth implies a deeper understanding and understanding of the whole that works together. Whereas a fact, I see as a little bitty piece of that, right? So you could have a fact and still be completely misunderstanding the whole. Anyway, off on a tangent. So let's look at some of the things I'm thinking about and how I work these ideas out. Now, this is the end of the photo section reference. So starting here, let's see. Let's scroll through it. So starting here, these were things I pulled for possible color schemes and ideas, right? So there was the grayness versus her warmth, which is here, and then the orange of the sunset. I like this one with the greens, the upright greens. Had a little water in there. You know, do we want those purple background mountains? I really love the feel of this, but where's her skin tone? And I see it, and I was having a hard time getting her skin tone balanced with this. So I threw that idea. This is, again, just reference, right? Inspiration. The problem with this one is it lacks that sunset feel. Here, I kind of like the degree of quietness, but what you're really seeing is the white. And I think in mine, I'm really wanting to focus on her skin, so it'll be the purple. What you're seeing here is, again, these mountains from different angles and all kinds of things that's happening with them. For instance, these tree patterns repeat themselves through this valley. And sometimes at the base of these trees, there's some buildings. Right? This is the Madonna property, so obviously this is a lot more than you could usually see. But even back here, you see that little house? And then, like I said, that's repeated through this valley. Look what's happening back here. Same thing, a house against those dark trees. I want to live there. Yeah, who doesn't, huh? Okay, so that's a repeating pattern. And you can see here across the street there, same thing happening. So that's something that I might or might not use. I'm definitely going to use these dark patterns in the painting. I may or may not use the light at the base. Right. Look at that green, and then we have the buildings, and then we have the dark green. That's not on the edge of the... How did we get from here? Just because you want green up here does not mean green has to be here. And look, just glancing up at this, what I noticed was this building. So these colors are perfect to set up a near for this far. Right? A near for these fars. A near for the far. I want to live there, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. It's so beautiful. That's why, I mean, I've been obsessed with this valley for 20 years. Right? And look as we pull back what happens here. But again, this isn't going to be the whole painting, kind of like the Bierstadt we saw last night. If we use this, it'll be for a part of a greater pattern. But I just kind of wanted to introduce, and then this is a different angle from the park, a little closer to where we're taking the picture from. And look, that mountain I have behind her is right here, and there's no rock. There's plenty of rocks at the base of this. And again, I'm more concerned about my painting than replicating what's actually in the photo. Oh, look, dark trees, grass. And look, these trees are in shadow, silhouette, and the grass is lit behind it. Do you see light, shadow, light, shadow, light, shadow, light, light, shadow, light, shadow, light, shadow. So that repeating light, shadow can be used to walk us through this valley, especially if we're going to be using evening light, right? If the sun's really low. So that's one of the decisions that has to be made. Are we going to have it where the sun is low, casting long shadows? This is the tree. No, that is not the tree in the painting. That is not, but it's a similar tree. Again, look at these patterns here. From the light of the land to the dark of the trees and then the gray mountains behind. So where Izzy actually is in this photograph, oh, I think we might even be able to see it. That's the dock right there she's standing on, right? And she's looking this direction, and this is the tree that I put on the other side of her. But so we're looking all the way down this valley here, or that whole valley back behind her is the distance. So as you can see, this is far from copying. Hey, look. Dark reeds in the foreground that I was going to use in my painting. You think I'm going to copy this? No, that's a horrible shape. Horrible negative shapes. If it takes changing nature to make a beautiful painting, I'm going to change nature. Okay. You guys with me? And then again, these are some studies I pulled for possible color schemes. And then these are studies, drawings from various artists that I pulled that were on profile. This was done in case there's not strong light shadow, or if she's in just kind of skylight. The coloration of this, there's not strong light shadow. I thought I could use that as an inspiration. And again, profile. Yeah, but she's facing the opposite direction. So oh. Right? They're solving the same problems. And the reason I have these there are just to look to see how these artists or previous artists have solved the problem. Now, theirs is not in a scene, so I have my particular needs. But see, you can take all of that. All of this is what goes in, at least for me, producing a painting like this. There's the black and white version of the original photo. And then here are some color schemes I was considering. You know, the darker green. We talked about the baby elephants yesterday. But these silhouettes tie in with the ground they're sitting on. Right? So the elephant legs, right, we don't have the strong negative shapes like they do. They're a little bit, but this is more light against a dark. But you see how those silhouettes help lead us around? And then the interesting little silhouette of trees back here. You know, compare that land with the trees meeting the sky to that. Again, that visual interest, that visual weight. And see how, again, these ladies in the field are just like we talked about the pups today. They're in a three-dimensional circle. See, so that one's way back there, but look, it's joined up with this first one as a shape. Anyway, so that's a possibility. So good sky colors, Could we use some of this for some of her skin tone? I think so. This is Jules, what is it, Breton? Breton, I think. French, I think, if I remember right. Anyway, again, it's easy to get lost because you're dealing with so much beauty, but we got to move so we can produce the painting. I thought, ooh, you know, I really like, we got skin tones in here. I really like this coolness. But there's not a lot of the sky, maybe a little bit, but so I don't know on this one as far as our color scheme. Now this, right, this is a little earlier than I was hoping for, but this could be part of those long shadows. Right, it looks like we've got some good skin tone in here that could be used. We've got some good dark greens of the upright trees. We've got some distant, and again we could do shadow, light, shadow if we wanted to. Look how we grade that off. Is green in the distance. Green in the distance. Yellow in the distance. Anyway, so it's a contender because part of the concept, again, I couldn't do that, but I didn't really have a feeling in mind like that. I think I had more of a soft feeling like this. And this is an early Georgianus. We've been looking at his later pieces, which are much more, should we say, poetic. Not that these aren't poetic, but he got more poetic as he went. As far as this color scheme, I'm digging it. So the cow has got the reds, the oranges, yellows of the skin tone that we could use. The greens of the trees. Darks of the reeds. The initial grass leading back. Right? And then we could make these mountains, our mountains, do something like that and then have a beautiful sunset. Right? Our sunset's going to be out of frame, but I could imagine using these colors, right? To where just above Izzy, it's probably going to be more this color because the sun is going to be coming from over here and she's way over there. And then an interesting thing about this, you know, I was thinking purple, purple sky, but look how effective that warm under sky is right there. So it's, in a way, it's hard to share this because I'm usually not vocalizing it. Right? But I'm going through and just, oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, okay, so what don't we have? What's missing? All right, so definitely a contender there. And this was the other one I was looking at. Now, I don't know that I want this much dark in mine, so I don't know how that would work. But we've got greens, you know, dark greens. We got greens going back into space there. We got purple at the horizon, some orange, yellow as we go up. Maybe. All right, thank you, Janny. Thank you. Okay. So, we'll catch you later. Now what we've got to do is, let's come back to our reference image. Right? And let's go over what I'm going to do is let's just hop over to the iPad. Boom, it's a do-si-do. Okay, so this I have as the dimensions of my final. 18 inches by 48 inches. So that's 4 feet by 1.5 feet. And before we get going too far, let's just start with like charcoal. Okay. So again, the general idea is she's going to be somewhere over in this area. I was thinking they would be reeds over here. So then the question is, how big is she? How big's her face? How much of her are we getting in? What are we cutting off? There. And then, where do we want that dark running across? This is water. And I think, in this picture, the reference, it's way too high. You see, because if I put her here in the landscape, what's happening is it's like she's getting swallowed by the landscape. And that's not very hopeful. But if we move this and we move her up, then she's a little more hopeful. Which brings us to, how tall do we want this first one? And that second one, and how far do we want to run that back? So when I'm thinking about the mountains, believe it or not, what I'm thinking in my head is how sharp do I want that run? And then once I decide that, maybe we can see, part of it is, do we need some dark in front of her face to set that off? So down the valley. How many hours do you think it would take you to up and over, up and over, up and over? Well, if you're good, maybe a day. And by good, I mean a professional long-distance athlete. In other words, that's way over there. And then what I also wanted to do is I wanted to have this tree. There's a tree over here. And how big do I want that tree? How big do we want that tree, right? Do I want it going out? Well, how's that going to affect that sunset look? You guys will have to let me know. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Yes, we should switch to the sketch. All right, anyway, I'm thinking that, and then right now what I'm deciding is where I want my tree and how tall I want my tree. You know, if she's this tall, we don't want them even. We don't want them even. And again, let me know if this is helping, because again, I usually do this all in my head without vocalizing. And the challenge is trying to go in some order you guys can understand at the same time while really working on the problems I need to work on. Maybe we've got it, maybe we don't. That could be a long shadow. Remember we talked, and part of the reasons I want this tree here, see, fence builder, you fence builder. Do you see how being loose, though, how easy it is to make that tree larger? And yeah, there's going to be sky holes and everything, but I just want to get a feel for it. And then if these reeds were, I could come up on top of that. If we needed them. There we go. It's very light. Okay, good. I'm glad you're with me, Susan, because I can't imagine it makes very good TV. But again, I don't know how to fake this stuff. So that's very rough, and I don't feel. Why does this feel wrong? Well, for one, this is too close to that. Dang it. I'm joking when I say that. So if I've got it in black here, why don't we go to a new thing and let's just work over it in red. And let's see, she's going to have to be, so what kind of negative shapes do we want back there behind her? I think we're going to need at least a little here. Do we want her touching the top of the canvas? Do we want her dominating this thing? Maybe we do, I don't know. Because we are talking about, you know, her, the road ahead. The road ahead. Okay, so then that would put her something like that, at least skin tone, and we'd have to see what her shirt is. And there's dark in there too. So if she was that big, then maybe what we need to do is maybe that tree needs to be a lot smaller. And then if that was the case, right, if those were the reeds, and we could step back and big. So that feels a little better to me. Those proportions. And notice, you know, I can do these as thick and heavy, or just one or two of them, if whatever I need here. I could even have one going over that tree. You wouldn't want to do that, splitting that thing in half, but okay. And then what if there was some clouds or something up here to hold us in? A little dark gray. I just put it a little warmer gray because, like I said, that last painting or so had that warm at top. And I thought that might be nice to set off the greenery and also to tie into her skin tones. Right? Because she does need to harmonize with this thing. And the big question was always, what are we going to do with the water? What are we going to do with the water? Now, of course, there's plenty of reflection, but where there's no reflection, maybe we can take that as like a dark green gray. Oh, is that too dark? I don't know. It's pretty dark. Get that white up. Get it so we can see it. So that's probably no problem with that being like the reflection of the reeds and stuff. But we could too, if this is sky, it's going to be reflecting some sky too, so maybe some of it will go that way.